What if the world's richest people are voting with their private jets, and almost nobody is watching where they land? Right now, thousands of Chinese millionaires are quietly packing up their fortunes and moving to one small island nation. They are not making headlines. They are not holding press conferences. They are simply leaving, family by family, fortune by fortune. And the destination they keep choosing again and again is Singapore. In this video, we are going to break down exactly why this is happening, what is pulling them out of China, and what is pulling them toward this tiny but mighty city-state. By the end, you will understand one of the biggest silent wealth migrations happening in the world today. Let us get into it. Point 1. The fear that started it all. To understand why Chinese millionaires started leaving, you have to go back to 2019. That year, Hong Kong exploded with pro-democracy protests. Millions of people took to the streets. The world watched as tear gas filled the air and businesses shut their doors. For decades, Hong Kong had been the playground of the wealthy in Asia, a place where mainland Chinese millionaires could park their money, do business, and feel a sense of freedom that mainland China did not offer. But when Beijing responded to the protests with a sweeping national security law the very next year, that sense of freedom vanished overnight. Wealthy families who had trusted Hong Kong as their safe harbor suddenly felt the ground shifting beneath them. Courts that once felt independent now felt like extensions of Beijing. Banks that once felt private now felt like they could be watched. For a millionaire or a billionaire, trust is everything. Once trust breaks, money moves fast. And it did. Families began looking for a new home, somewhere close enough to Asia to keep doing business, but far enough from mainland control to feel truly safe. Singapore, sitting quietly just a few hours away by plane, culturally similar, English-speaking, and politically stable, became the obvious answer. This was not a slow trickle. This was the beginning of one of the largest silent wealth exoduses in modern history, and it all started with fear, the fear of losing control over money that had taken generations to build. Point 2. Common prosperity and the crackdown on billionaires. While Hong Kong was falling apart, something else was happening back in mainland China that scared the wealthy even more. Beijing launched a campaign called Common Prosperity. On the surface, it sounded noble, a plan to reduce inequality and share wealth more fairly across society. But for China's richest citizens, it felt like a warning shot. Tech billionaires who had built massive empires suddenly found themselves under intense scrutiny. Some were forced to donate huge portions of their fortunes to social causes. Others watched their companies get fined, restructured, or quietly reined in by regulators. The message was clear: if you get too rich, too visible, or too powerful, the state can and will step in. For entrepreneurs who had spent 20 or 30 years building their businesses from nothing, this was terrifying. It did not matter how hard they had worked or how legally they had earned their money. The rules could change overnight, and there was no court, no appeal, no safety net to protect them. So the wealthy did what wealthy people have always done throughout history when they feel threatened: they moved their money somewhere safer. Singapore offered exactly that kind of safety. It has strong property rights, predictable laws, and a government that has spent decades building a reputation for stability rather than sudden crackdowns. For a Chinese millionaire watching friends and rivals lose control of their companies overnight, Singapore was not just an option. It was insurance. Point 3. The rise of the family office. Here is where things get really interesting. Singapore did not just passively benefit from wealthy Chinese families running scared. It actively rolled out the red carpet through something called the family office scheme. A family office is essentially a private company that manages the wealth of one very rich family, handling their investments, their taxes, their properties, and sometimes even their children's education planning. Singapore made it incredibly attractive for wealthy families to set up these offices on its soil. The government created a program called the Global Investor Program, which allowed extremely wealthy individuals to gain permanent residency in exchange for setting up a substantial family office and investing tens of millions of dollars into the local economy. In just a few short years, the number of single-family offices in Singapore exploded from around 400 to well over 2,000. Chinese money poured in by the billions. Bankers, lawyers, and wealth managers who specialize in serving the ultra-rich flooded into Singapore to meet the demand. An entire industry sprang up almost overnight, built entirely around helping the world's wealthy, especially those from mainland China, protect and grow their fortunes in a safe, stable environment. This was not an accident. Singapore saw an opportunity in the anxiety of China's elite, and it built an entire economic engine to capture that wealth. Point 4. No capital gains tax and a tax system built for the wealthy. Let us talk about money, because at the end of the day, taxes matter enormously to people with enormous fortunes. Singapore has one of the most attractive tax systems in the world for high net worth individuals. There is no capital gains tax, which means if you invest your millions and watch them grow, you keep the growth without the government taking a large cut. There is no tax on inheritance, which matters enormously to families thinking about passing wealth down to the next generation. Personal income tax rates are also far lower than what many wealthy Chinese citizens would face elsewhere, and the overall system is simple, transparent, and predictable. Compare that to mainland China, where tax rules can shift with political winds, or to many Western countries, where wealthy individuals can lose a huge portion of their fortune to capital gains and inheritance taxes. For a family sitting on hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars, the difference between Singapore's tax system and almost anywhere else can mean saving tens of millions of dollars over just a few years. This is not a small detail. For many families, it is the single biggest financial reason to relocate. When you combine low taxes with political stability and strong legal protections, you get a formula that is almost impossible for the ultra-wealthy to resist. Point 5. Courts you can actually trust. Money means very little if you cannot protect it. This is something every wealthy person eventually learns, often the hard way. One of the biggest reasons Chinese millionaires trust Singapore is its legal system. Singapore's courts are widely respected around the world for being independent, efficient, and free from political interference. If a dispute arises over a business deal, a family inheritance, or an investment gone wrong, a wealthy family in Singapore can expect the case to be judged on its legal merits, not on political connections or government pressure. This stands in sharp contrast to the legal uncertainty many wealthy families experienced or feared back in mainland China, where business outcomes can sometimes be influenced by political relationships rather than pure legal reasoning. Property rights in Singapore are also fiercely protected. If you buy a building, a company, or an investment, you can trust that ownership will be respected and enforced by the courts. For families who have spent decades building fortunes, this kind of legal certainty is priceless. It means they can sleep at night knowing that their wealth, once moved to Singapore, is protected by a system that plays by clear, consistent rules rather than shifting political moods. Point 6. A culture that feels like home. Moving your entire life and fortune to a new country is not just about money and law. It is deeply personal. This is where Singapore has an enormous advantage that almost no other wealthy nation can match. A huge portion of Singapore's population is ethnically Chinese, and Mandarin is widely spoken throughout the country. For a wealthy family leaving mainland China, this means they do not have to learn an entirely new language or navigate an unfamiliar culture from scratch. They can walk into a restaurant, negotiate a business deal, or enroll their children in school, all while speaking the language they grew up with. Beyond language, many cultural values overlap as well: respect for education, strong family bonds, and business practices that will feel familiar rather than foreign. This cultural comfort makes the emotional transition of relocating an entire family and fortune far less overwhelming. Compare this to moving to a Western country, where language barriers, cultural differences, and a sense of being an outsider can make even the wealthiest families feel isolated. Singapore offers something rare: a place that is politically distinct from mainland China but culturally close enough to feel like an extension of home rather than a complete departure from it. Point 7. A business gateway to all of Asia. Wealthy families do not just want a safe place to store their money. Many of them are still active entrepreneurs, investors, and business builders who want to keep growing their fortunes. Singapore offers something incredibly valuable here too: its location. Sitting at the crossroads of major shipping and trade routes, Singapore serves as a natural gateway to the rest of Southeast Asia, a region with hundreds of millions of consumers and some of the fastest-growing economies on Earth. From Singapore, a business leader can easily reach markets in Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, and beyond, all while operating from a base that offers world-class infrastructure, reliable internet, modern airports, and a government that actively supports business growth. Singapore has consistently ranked among the easiest places in the world to start and run a business, with streamlined regulations and minimal bureaucratic red tape. For Chinese entrepreneurs who built their fortunes through hustle and ambition, Singapore is not a retirement home. It is a launching pad for the next chapter of their business empire, allowing them to keep growing their wealth while enjoying the safety and stability that mainland China could no longer guarantee. Point 8. World-class education for the next generation. Ask any wealthy parent what matters most to them, and after protecting their fortune, the answer is almost always their children's future. Singapore has built a global reputation for having one of the best education systems on the planet. Its students consistently rank near the very top of international academic assessments in math, science, and reading. Beyond the strong local schools, Singapore is also home to a wide range of prestigious international schools that follow British, American, and international curricula, giving wealthy families the flexibility to prepare their children for universities anywhere in the world. For Chinese parents who grew up in an intensely competitive education system back home, Singapore offers a rare combination: academic excellence paired with a calmer, safer environment for raising children. Many wealthy families see relocating to Singapore not just as protecting their current wealth, but as investing in the future success of their children and grandchildren. When a millionaire thinks generations ahead rather than just years ahead, education becomes one of the most powerful pulls toward a new home, and Singapore delivers on that promise better than almost anywhere else in Asia. Point 9. Safety, cleanliness, and an enviable quality of life. Beyond the spreadsheets and legal contracts, there is a simple human truth driving this migration: people want to live somewhere that feels good. Singapore is consistently ranked as one of the safest cities in the entire world. Crime rates are remarkably low, streets are clean, public transportation runs like clockwork, and the healthcare system is considered among the best globally. For a wealthy family who may have grown accustomed to smog-filled skies, unpredictable food safety standards, or general urban chaos in parts of mainland China, Singapore feels like stepping into a different world. Parks are meticulously maintained, hospitals are modern and highly rated, and even something as simple as walking down the street at night feels completely safe. This might sound like a small detail compared to taxes and legal systems, but for people who can literally live anywhere on Earth, quality of life becomes a major deciding factor. Money can buy comfort almost anywhere, but it cannot always buy peace of mind. Singapore offers both in abundance, which is exactly why so many wealthy families describe their move not just as a financial decision, but as a decision to finally breathe easier. Point 10. A trend that is now evolving. Here is something important to understand about this story: it is not standing still. For years, the flow of wealthy Chinese families into Singapore grew rapidly, turning the city-state into one of the fastest-growing wealth hubs on the planet. But more recently, Singapore has tightened its rules significantly. After a major money laundering scandal rattled the country's banking sector, regulators raised the bar dramatically for setting up family offices, increased scrutiny on incoming wealth, and made compliance far more demanding than it used to be. As a result, some wealthy families have started exploring other destinations again, including a resurgent Hong Kong, along with Japan and the United Arab Emirates. This does not mean the story is over. It means the story is maturing. Singapore is no longer just an easy landing spot, it has become a more selective, more heavily regulated destination that still attracts serious long-term wealth, just with higher standards attached. For the millionaires who do make it through, Singapore remains one of the most trusted and prestigious wealth hubs on Earth. The overall lesson here is powerful: when the wealthy feel threatened, they will always search for safety, and whichever nation offers the best combination of stability, opportunity, and trust will keep winning this quiet, high-stakes competition for the world's fortunes. So there you have it, 10 powerful reasons why so many of China's millionaires have been quietly choosing Singapore as their new home. From political fear and crackdowns back home, to low taxes, trusted courts, cultural comfort, and an unbeatable quality of life, Singapore built the perfect formula to attract some of the wealthiest families on Earth. This is a story about more than just money. It is a story about trust, safety, and what people are truly willing to do to protect everything they have built. And this migration is still unfolding right now, shifting and changing as new rules and new competitors enter the picture. If you found this breakdown interesting, smash that like button, it genuinely helps this channel grow. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Would you make the same move if you had the fortune to do it? And if you want more deep dives into how the world's wealthy think, move, and protect their money, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.